I appreciate it. ABC caves to the angry, violent left. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Some breaking news late this afternoon that probably shouldn't come as a surprise to any of us. Disney and ABC quickly caving to the outraged and often violent left-wing mob. Jimmy Kimmel will be back on television tomorrow night and will be fully emboldened, you know it, after winning this fight. Kimmel's brief suspension led to a fury from the left. We watched it for the past week. That included bullets, actually, after a spectacular gaslight of the American people by Democrats in Congress that this was somehow suppression of free speech. And the media was all in on that narrative as well. In truth, the existence of Jimmy Kimmel's show, as it has been for the last 10 years, was proof of the total capture of media and entertainment by the far left. That is what has been exposed, which for years has proven the suppression of conservative voices. That's the real story. The fact that Jimmy Kimmel's show exists is the real story. A reminder of what Kimmel did last week. It was not a joke. It wasn't a joke. He literally used his platform and he used ABC's credibility to push an agenda item so ridiculous that he actually sounded like a basement-dwelling political sycophant. Here it is.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
And he did that with, again, the full weight of ABC behind him. He sounded like a crazy person on Twitter. The fact that someone that political has a comedy show, a late-night comedy show on ABC, is the real story and is far more terrifying than his brief suspension or what should have been his firing could ever be. Bob Iger and Disney briefly tried to pull their business model back away from the depths of left-wing autonomy, and then they caved very fast after thousands started canceling Disney Plus, and we had a deranged leftist with a social media full of Trump hate fire rounds into an ABC affiliate in Sacramento. There's also indication Sinclair has backed off because of this as well. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Nobody was hurt. Anibal Hernandez Santana was arrested, and Jimmy's bold lie about Charlie's killer was not the first time that he has shown us this level of depravity and desperation to push his political agenda as a late-night host. He was a horrifically divisive late show host for years on ABC. He took late-night comedy and turned it into a twisted therapy session for the subsection of the American populace that spends all day long in some kind of rage-filled obsession with every single thing that Donald Trump does. That was the Jimmy Kimmel Show. It was a show just for those people. Kimmel's show was among the least inclusive on television, and it was on ABC, one of the broadcast networks. Conservatives did not watch Jimmy Kimmel. Moderates did not watch Jimmy Kimmel. Only the really crazy people on the left who are very angry all the time when Trump's in office watch Jimmy Kimmel. It was just like The View. Here's some more, just as a reminder that it wasn't just this. This is more of what Kimmel had done with that show over the last 10 years.
If hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy. Please don't vandalize, don't ever vandalize Tesla vehicles. And so, let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Yeah, that's Kimmel right there after Trump won every single swing state. Dan Turrentine is the co-host of The Morning Meeting. Tudor Dixon, host of the Tudor Dixon podcast. Good to see you both. Dan, I want to get your perspective on this. I think he goes full throttle, very emboldened now on his political agenda. What did you make of this fight and of ABC Disney caving?
Well, look, I think you got to start with the fact that what he said was just flat out wrong and tasteless. And I think the big thing here is that the affiliate spoke. I mean, the free market spoke here a little bit. Yes, I'm sure the FCC chairman's statement, which I think was inappropriate, probably factored a little bit into it. But you go back to when Johnny Carson was leaving and you had Jay Leno and David Letterman competing for that. Everyone thought it would be Letterman. Leno went around to the affiliates and reminded them that Letterman's humor was more kind of coastal and more left. Leno said, hey, I'm more equal opportunity. The affiliates pushed NBC to name Leno. And I think the other part of this is, and you hit on it, all these institutions are 95% progressive. Like, as a Democrat, I love it. But in a 50-50 country, it's hard to maintain this when you have a public license to broadcast. So I think at the end of the day, that the free market spoke. I'm really curious what he says here tomorrow night. But, because it sounds like he didn't want to apologize.
Right. And Tudor, the fact that the left had kind of martyred themselves over this and acted like they were suppressed. I mean, the fact that Kimmel has his show to begin with is proof that if there's any oppression of speech, it is on the right. It is of conservatives that are not represented at all in late night comedy, not represented at all in any of those broadcast networks whatsoever.
Yeah, well, you just played a montage of him, and I didn't hear a single joke in there, so he's obviously not funny. ABC was losing money or is losing money on his show, but I think that every single Democrat that came out and said Donald Trump did this, this should be illegal, this is against the First Amendment, should now have to come out and explain how if the president had that control, then how can ABC go back and bring him back on the air? Because clearly that argument has no legs. They were just using it because they're trying to come up with a message. They are still desperately trying to come up with a message for the midterms, and they don't have one yet. This one has now failed again because their icon Jimmy Kimmel is right back on the air.
There's reports, Dan, that Sinclair canceled a tribute to Charlie Kirk after threats to ABC stations, which is just an indication again. And I think that's exactly why Disney and ABC did what they did. I think that they were worried about the canceling of their Disney app, and I think they're worried about just how weaponized the left can be when they really get their troops together. They're a very dangerous thing. That's why so many companies don't advertise on Newsmax and on Fox. It's a very effective tool they have, and I think that Iger caved.
Yeah, I mean, look, you saw reports of all these artists who said that they would no longer work with Disney or with ABC here in New York City. Mandani backed out of a debate, a town hall that ABC was going to sponsor in protest. And I think you're right. Look, it's hard to try to get new customers and fire your existing customers. And I think they looked in the mirror and thought, uh-oh, we have a problem. But, Tudor's right. The Democratic Party is, I think, just revolting about all these properties that are suddenly not in their control anymore. And Donald Trump's trying to bend them back in the other direction. And I think the way to win that argument is kind of channel Charlie Kirk. We need to have ideas. We need to beat people in the marketplace and at the ballot box, and not try to just keep a chokehold on these properties that have propped us up for years.
Yeah. It's been a tremendous gaslight, this story, for the last week, and I want to play Jamie Raskin's response. Tudor, take a listen.
It's great news. Obviously, the ABC heard from millions and millions of people out there who do not want to accept government-dictated censorship of their late-night talk show hosts. And so the free speech battle's not over. Obviously, Donald Trump still thinks he's got the power to anoint and appoint comedians in the country in private media broadcasts. But at least ABC is on the right side now, and he's got his employer with him as well as so much of the public.
I mean, there's such goobers on this. The fact that they just reinstated Kimmel after just a few shows lost proves that everything that they said about this being a mandate from the government, being forced into ABC, it proves that was all not the narrative, that's not what really happened. Tudor.
No, the mandates from government come from the Democrats. I mean, they're so anti-capitalist that when ABC even came out and said, look, we've gotten pressure from sponsors, from advertisers, this show is really low in the ratings. I mean, he was ridiculously low in the ratings and still is, and I guess still will be. But on the Democrat side, it seems like you go out and you force private companies to do what you want, just like EV mandates that cost our motor companies millions and billions of dollars in losses. And yet the Democrats said, we're going to decide what capitalism is. We're going to decide we're getting rid of it. We're going to decide what private companies can do. And now they're going to ABC and they're like, we don't care if you're losing. This is a speech issue. No, it's not. This is a private company issue.
Yeah, well said. Guys, good to see you both. Dan, Tudor, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it was a very powerful weekend in Phoenix. I was there with Newsmax, of course, as America gave Charlie Kirk a very proper and solemn goodbye. Tens of thousands of people filling State Farm Stadium in Glendale, right outside Phoenix, to honor the life of Charlie Kirk. His assassination, though, has revealed just how vile the American left has become. So much celebrating for that day, so much hate has erupted after his death. You thought that there was enough hate to assassinate him, and then you see more of it in the wake of his death. And in hopes of limiting the political ramifications of these sickening displays, media figures out there on the left have been searching feverishly through archives of Charlie's events in the past to try and find comments that they think will make it so that you can justify his assassination. That's what we're seeing all over X from people like Mehdi Hassan, digging through everything Charlie's ever said and saying, see here, he was bad. He should have been killed. That's how twisted the situation is. Here was the president at Sunday's memorial.
Charlie's murder was not just an attack on one man or one movement. It was an attack on our entire nation. That was a horrible attack on the United States of America. It was an assault on our most sacred liberties and God-given rights. The gun was pointed at him, but the bullet was aimed at all of us. That bullet was aimed at every one of us.
Bullet aimed at a political movement, and that's exactly how it was. As I covered this event yesterday, I got to watch every single speech that was given. Most of them were somber, some were uplifting. I personally thought that Stephen Miller's speech was the most impactful and was much more pointed at something that I think deserves a lot of scrutiny right now, and that is the status of the American left. Take a listen to this.
They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us, because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. To our enemies, you have nothing to give, you have nothing to offer, you have nothing to share, but bitterness. We have beauty, we have light, we have goodness, we have determination, we have vision, we have strength.
Makes some great points about what if you look at really what the left wants, what they desire, what they crave, what they seek, it is all based in envy, jealousy, anger, all of it. It's all very dark. Elon Musk attending Charlie Kirk's funeral yesterday, indicating he feels the same. Take a listen.
Why was he killed?
He was killed because his words made a difference. Because he was showing people the light. And he was killed by the dark.
Showing people the light and killed by the dark. That was very well put from Elon Musk. And then there was the moment that I don't think anybody's going to forget, Charlie's widow forgiving his killer. Take a look.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Something else right there. Sage Steele joins us now to talk about this. Sage, you were there yesterday. It's an event that's been mocked by so many on the left and vilified by so many of the left. What did we watch yesterday? We watched a lot of people say goodbye, and we watched the wife of Charlie Kirk forgive her husband's assassin. Your thoughts?
Which was by far, to me, the most poignant, memorable, special moment that took me by surprise. And I do know Erica a little bit, and for as incredible as she is, I guess I hadn't thought of her getting to that point yet, 11 days after the murder of her husband and the father of her children. So to me, you talk about teaching the world lessons, a lesson in how we are choosing, most importantly, she is choosing to handle the worst possible situation. You know, you were there, you know how 100,000 people packed inside and just outside that stadium and another stadium that they rented out as well. It took us 2.5, 3 hours, Rob, to get from the hotel downtown out to the stadium in Glendale. Yep. Not one car was honking their horn. People were smiling, people were kind, people were waving along with their sadness as they waited in line for hours and hours, some of them camping out the night before. This picture you're showing right there, that is the difference between us and them. And I hate to separate like that, but we must in this case, because I have personally never been part of anything like that in my life, where I felt such sadness, but peace and joy. Maybe I'm giving too much information here, but, you know, as a Catholic, I've always been, like, we're quite often taught to just, you know, we pray quietly, we do things on our own. That was the first time I've been in a building where I raised my hands up along with everyone else who was praising God and singing those gospel songs. So that's what I'm trying to focus on right now, is the beauty that you and I got to experience and millions of others watching at home and streaming, instead of the ugliness that the left continues to choose to focus on, to choose to divide. For CNN to bring Jasmine Crockett on that day to say the vile things she said about Charlie Kirk, those are choices. We are going to choose to do the right thing in this case, which is to lead with kindness and do what Charlie would want us to do, to listen to them and say, okay, you do you, we're going to handle it what we believe is the right way, the way Jesus would want us to.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right. And I just, it was, to me, I looked at it and it's, you look at the right and you look at the left in this country. And that was what most would say was a very conservative crowd, right? I mean, I think the media would label that like they'd label that alt-right, they'd label that something horrific. You know how they would describe what we saw yesterday. It was a lot of people praying. You look at what that crowd looks like. Imagine a stadium full of the far left and what that stadium would look like and what kind of activities and behaviors you would be seeing. It's so wild to me that people can view what we saw yesterday as some kind of a threat or or as something bad or something toxic. I thought it was, and I'm not a very religious person, but I thought that was just a beautiful event. It was full of God and prayer and song and things like that, but it was beautiful. And I don't know how anybody could be threatened by that.
I'm so glad you said that. You have to wonder what is in the souls of those people who look at it, and people in prominent positions with big followings saying, look, it looks like a Nazi convention. Like, are you serious? If it bothers you that much, please just don't watch. I don't think we even, Rob, need to picture a stadium full of those people. I think we've seen enough of it in Portland, in Detroit, in Chicago, in Minneapolis, and all of these cities over the last 5-6 years and beyond, where when things didn't go their way on any level, much lesser levels, frankly, the assassination of someone like Charlie Kirk or someone that would have been on their side, what do? They riot, they loot, they hurt others.
They destroy.
Others, they destroy. And that is what I mean by the difference. This is also what happens when people feel threatened, which they do right now, because they realize, oh my goodness, have we pushed it too far? Instead of acknowledging that, looking in the mirror and maybe saying, hey, let's come back to the middle. Tim Walz has said this for a very long time. Last summer after President Trump got shot, we need to tone down the rhetoric. But what happens? A week later, they're saying Nazi all over again. We must separate ourselves from that ugliness while doing what? Doing what we did yesterday, which is kindness and praise and gratitude and trying to be better and to lead.
Well said. Well said. Sage, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, one of the most incredible news conferences I think I've ever seen from this president just took place a couple hours ago. Totally unafraid of big pharma, totally unowned by special interests, Trump reveals the causes of autism. That is next.
Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. There are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. Does that tell you something? They pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines. It would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff. You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times.
40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine.
That was something, what we saw today, what we saw late this afternoon was something we really have never seen before. It was incredible to watch. Autism is a crisis the American government simply has refused to address for a very long time, as the numbers have absolutely skyrocketed. You've noticed how nobody wants to tackle the issue, and they weren't really looking that hard into it. They weren't revealing what they were finding. We can certainly tell you that. That has changed. The uncomfortable conversation surrounding combo childhood vaccines and autism is now out there in the open. The administration also warning against pregnant women using Tylenol, or mothers giving Tylenol to their kids as well. Take a listen.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child.
Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change.
Senator Ron Johnson joins us now to talk about just an incredible news conference that we had this afternoon. And Senator, good to have you on. Your reaction to what was revealed today by the administration and by our health secretary?
Well, first of all, I couldn't be more appreciative of what President Trump and RFK Jr. are doing here. They're just giving people the facts. For so long, and President Trump said, you can't even ask the question. And partly because those powerful interests, they don't want to know the answer. They don't want to know that a drug or a pesticide or an herbicide that they're producing could be causing chronic illness, could be causing autism. But, Rob, let me just give you some facts. So we've all heard of VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. Well, the FDA has VAERS, the FDA Adverse Event Reporting System. So in 56 years of tracking Tylenol, there have been 39,540 deaths reported to VAERS. That's 706 per year. For ivermectin, you remember the one that they said was so dangerous? In 29 years reporting, 493 deaths, 17 a year. And of course, for the COVID injection, in over just 5 years, 38,742 deaths associated with the COVID injection. That's over 8,000 per year. Now, those are just the facts. I know VAERS, it doesn't prove causation, but it should be causing physicians and federal health officials to ask the questions. And God bless President Trump and RFK Jr. for asking the questions and starting to use their positions, their platform, to give parents informed consent.
This is more than just asking questions at this point, though. They've come out with this. They feel like this is verified. And I feel like Kennedy has known this for a few months now, because he said he would reveal it in September. He would reveal it at the end of the summer. And they did. And it seems to me that they're confident, that they're very confident they've discovered what's causing this, this horrible, whatever autism is. I don't know if you'd call it a disease or whatever it is. It's a scary thing, and the numbers are through the roof.
I think you have to listen very carefully. There are enough studies. I saw one analysis of different studies, 27 associated Tylenol use with neurodevelopment disorders like autism. 9 said there was no causation in 4, so it was actually protective. So that's how science works. None of these studies are perfect. But when you have the preponderance of the evidence indicating it may be a problem, that's all they're saying. So they're issuing a warning. Maybe if you're pregnant, maybe you ought to avoid Tylenol, particularly prolonged use. But again, what it indicates is we need to do more science. People who ask the question shouldn't be vilified. Their career shouldn't be destroyed. They ought to be listened to. And that's quite honestly, all these moms are talking about, the high percentage that think their child's autism was caused by a vaccine. They shouldn't be gaslit. They shouldn't be vilified. They should be listened to. All they want to be is be seen, heard, and believed. They want help.
There's fury from the other side over this, and it's starting to explode right now on X. People that say, no, Tylenol is going to sue the administration into oblivion. I saw that tweet. There's a lot of anger about this. Why is it that this is so difficult to talk about? Why is it that these institutions, these big pharma is so protected, and how did that happen in this country?
Because they make a lot of money off these drugs and these vaccines. They've got a lot of money that they spend, controlling the narrative on throughout media. And again, if it's actually proven that their drug or their vaccine or their herbicide or pesticide causes these chronic conditions or autism, their multi-billion-dollar business model will be blowing up. So they've got the money. They've certainly convinced the people with decades of these are safe and effective and nothing to look at here. But again, with Tylenol, we know that you can overdose on Tylenol. Any drug, if you overdose on it, or many drugs, if you overdose on it, can kill you. So it's all about dosage. It's all about how it's used. It's all about co-founding factors. Again, this isn't easy. There's a lot we don't know, but we need to do more studies that have integrity as opposed to studies paid for by big pharma, by the interests that are trying to protect themselves.
Yeah, Tylenol, no longer Tylenol while pregnant, the president indicating that they want to make that suggestion to pregnant women and breaking up the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine into 3 different ones so you're not pumping this massive vaccine into little kids, and delaying Hep B until an older age because it's a sexually transmitted disease. Those are the recommendations we heard today. This was something. This was the most transparent thing I've ever seen from the health department in this country. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much.
And we need more transparency. Thanks.
Yeah, we certainly do. Thank you. All right, Newsom goes to war with ICE next. California Governor Gavin Newsom going above and beyond to dox federal ICE agents that are trying to deport illegal aliens out of the country. Newsom signing legislation over the weekend that would prevent federal immigration agents from wearing masks in his state. Any kind of face covering, Newsom is now trying to ban in his state, which of course is a direct retaliation to the deportation crackdown we've seen in places like Los Angeles. Take a listen.
These masked men did not provide any information, name, badge number, hidden from accountability. It's like a dystopian sci-fi movie. Unmarked cars, people in masks, people quite literally disappearing, no due process, no rights in a democracy where we have rights. ICE, unmasked. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
Oh, what are we afraid of? Well, you guys like to shoot bullets nonstop. Ask anybody that's at an ABC station lately. Ask Charlie Kirk. Ask the president. Maybe that's what they're afraid of, Gavin. The signing came shortly after posting a threatening and very cryptic tweet toward the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, saying she's going to have a bad day today. Really, really creepy stuff there. Homeland Security saying, to be clear, we will not comply with Newsom's unconstitutional mask ban, and that's the response. Artel Cueto is Board of Security Advisor for Federation for Immigration Reform. Ken Cuccinelli is a Senior Fellow at the Center for Renewing America. Good to see you both, guys. Art, your response to Gavin Newsom, who thinks there's no reason at all that ICE agents should cover their faces. They should have badges with their name and address on them.
Look, they have badges. Everyone knows who they are when they see them. They're covering their faces, obviously, because they've been getting doxxed. People have been, taking pictures of them, putting them all over the place. There was threats. Look, I'm in contact with them all the time. There was threats when they were out in California. They would find out what hotels they were staying. And there's some individuals that kept on sending text messages out saying, hey, the majority of them are staying in this hotel. So there's a lot of individuals out there that are very malicious, and they hate ICE, they hate Border Patrol agents. That's the only reason, that they want to know what their faces are, so they can publicly embarrass them. And Newsom's an embarrassment himself. He's supposed to be leading his state. He needs to be worried about all the other ruckus that's happening in his state, but instead he's focusing on coming after Border Patrol and ICE agents. That's just, it's insane to me.
He's awful. And Ken, I mean, you've got this pompous flake standing up there acting like he has no idea why anybody would be afraid. I mean, we have seen how vile the left, the behavior from the left in the last couple of months has really shown us how dangerous they can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so nobody has any doubts, look, a state can't pass a law to tell the federal government how to function. That violates the supremacy clause of Article 5 of the Constitution. So even just how ICE does its business, because it is federal law enforcement, is an element of exercising the supremacy clause. And Gavin Newsom knows this. This is pure political theater. This is just taxpayer funded Gavin Newsom for president in 28 activity. That's all this is.
Grandstanding.
I would I would imagine, Art, that the process that we're going through right now of moving these people out of the country is still very popular among the American people. These are the guys that are being told to do it, and they have a very dangerous, very difficult job, and all they get is this nonsense in return.
No, absolutely. Look, and they turn around and they say they don't want the feds involved. Do they or don't they?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
well said. Art Till Quito, Ken
as you
Cuccinelli.
said, this is dangerous work. And you put the stat up about the direct threats to ICE agents. Look, they're doing nationwide fugitive discovery and seizure and removal work on the order of over 1 million, 1.4 million last time I was aware of the numbers. People already with removal orders. So Gavin Newsom knows very well these people have had due process. They've had tons of due process. In my policy opinion, they've had too much due process. This takes too long to do. Yeah. We need to keep the officers safe who are doing it, or we can't reasonably ask them to go out and perform this function.
Exactly right. I got to leave it there. Art and Ken, good to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Rob.
I got to leave it there, just out of time, but thanks, Art. Appreciate it, guys. Good to see you. Got a little breaking news to get to here just on the Jimmy Kimmel front. He's coming back on the air tomorrow night. Sinclair, though, they own a lot of television stations in this country, announcing they will be preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live across their ABC affiliate stations tomorrow night. So when ABC brings the show back, Sinclair's got a lot of ABC affiliates, various markets through the country, and you will not see it in those markets where if you have a Sinclair ABC station in your city. It'll instead be replaced with news programming, which probably isn't the best other option to have. It won't rate as well, but they're sending a message that they're tired of this network being captured fully by the left. Sinclair doesn't want to deal with it anymore, and they're evaluating the show's potential return. We'll see where this goes from here. We still have not heard from Nexstar, owns a lot of other stations as well. As Trump heads to the UN, twisted displays from our allies against Israel. KT McFarland is next. Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Trump-backed New Jersey gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican New Jersey. We're hoping this guy can get across the finish line in New Jersey, hammering his opponent, Mikey Sherrill, in last night's New Jersey governor's debate over her controversy involving stock trading. Take a look at this.
In the 7 years that she's been in Congress, she's tripled her net worth. She broke the law. She had to pay fines for violating federal law on stock trades and stock reporting, and the New York Times reports that while you're sitting on the House Armed Services Committee, you were trading defense stocks.
Yeah, this is how they all get rich. And this is a businessman in New Jersey. The guy is so qualified to run that state, hoping Ciattarelli can do it. We're going to try and get him on the show this week and talk to him. That election coming up soon. And funny enough, when Mikey Sherrill, who's running as the Democrat in the state of New Jersey, was pressed about this issue a bit ago on the Breakfast Club, she actually talked a little trash about your favorite network and in defense of a story that we had published about her. Take a listen to this and then watch as she tries to defend herself in the worst way possible.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines I'm not sure what they're talking about.
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to.
Bro, you make 180 grand working in Congress and you don't know whether or not you made $7 million? You can't answer that question? Mikey Sherrill, I mean, could these people be any more visibly corrupt? And again, this is a bipartisan problem in Congress, but we shouldn't be rewarding it by giving her a better job? Absolutely. Unbelievable. What a horrible moment for her. All right, another funny moment, though, from the president here as we continue on News from the Left. While talking about how low drug prices are just a couple hours ago, watch this as he talks about, my favorite story from him is whenever he talks about Ozempic, which he calls the fat drug. He brought it up again today. I had to show you.
From $1,300 for a shot of like an Ozempic or the fat, I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. Sometimes it works, I guess, for people. The ones I've seen, it hasn't worked so well. I got a lot of friends, they're fat. They said, yeah, I lost some weight. I said, you don't look it to me.
The fat shot drug. And finally, Ilhan Omar, who hates and insults and destabilizes this country that rescued her from Somalia, this horrible place. Well, she addressed recent comments where she called Charlie Kirk Dr. Frankenstein and said that his legacy should be left in the dustbin of history. Take a listen to America's Worst Woman.
I am not going to sit here and be judged for not wanting to honor any legacy this man has left behind. That should be in the dustbin of history, and we should hopefully move on and forget the hate that he spewed every single day.
Just make sure you keep your little headscarf on, Ilhan, so the Muslim men don't beat you with a cane. Don't show any hair. Comments so vile from Ilhan that golfer Phil Mickelson had to even weigh in on X. Phil posting, Ilhan spews hate every time she opens her mouth. She came here fraudulently and will hopefully be sent back to Somalia soon. That is a direct message from Phil Mickelson. All right, we're coming back with KT McFarland and really twisted stuff coming out of the very anti-Israel UN. That is next. Show.
Today, we join over 150 countries who recognize a Palestinian state.
What I've called a Zionist Palestinian state, which is what we want.
Today, France recognizes the state of Palestine.
Canada, Britain, France joining about 150 of the 193 UN member countries in effectively rewarding Hamas and recognizing a Palestinian state. Just a huge slap in the face, a very twisted knock against Israel. And this all happens as the president right now is heading to the United Nations to speak tomorrow morning. The United Nations is not a great place, and the White House punching back against what we saw. Take a look.
The president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision, and frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas.
KT McFarland is a former Deputy National Security Advisor in the president's first term, and she joins us now. KT, good to see you. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum. The UN sucks. I don't know how better to say it. It's just not a good place, and the member states are not great. So it's a little bit kind of strong wording, but your reaction to what we saw today from the French and from Canada. I mean, go ahead.
Plan. I mean, there's nothing here. Why? Because so they're recognizing the Palestinian state. What is that Palestinian state? Doesn't have any borders. Does it include the West Bank, the Palestinians on the West Bank? Well, they haven't had an election in 20 years. Well, does it include Gaza? Like Hamas is governing Gaza. And so even when the British Prime Minister was asked about, well, this new Palestinian state that you're recognizing, is Hamas in that state? He said, oh, no, Hamas. We're never going to accept Hamas. But they don't know what they're recognizing. They're just virtue signaling to their own, in fact, largely Muslim populations that they want that vote. And they just can't wait to get to the UN and, kick Israel one more time.
It's so disappointing. And obviously you're exactly right, because especially France has imported just loads and loads and loads of of Muslim people into their country, and they're decimating their own culture. And obviously, they still want the support of those people if they vote, which is really sad.
Yeah, but the interesting thing that's going to happen, though, is 8 years ago when Donald Trump first spoke to the UN members, like, they laughed at him, they made fun of him, they said, oh, what a fool, what a buffoon, what an idiot, ha, ha, ha. He's now back, and he is the most important guy in the planet. They're all racing to try to have little sidebar meetings with him, to meet with him privately, one-on-one. So the joke is on them. Donald Trump has always said the best success, the best revenge is success. And I think he's got some success here.
You think he slams this pretty hard tomorrow? How do you think he plays it? Because obviously he's shown a little bit of disappointment in some times, or at least he's feigned a little bit of it, I think, toward Israel as he tries to make a deal here, as he tries to end this war. How do you think he plays this tomorrow in the speech?
He's got two choices. He can either do something sort of bland, or he can slam the decision by the European allies. He can say, with regard to the Ukraine war, hey, look, the United States is willing to end this war, but Russia's not, and the Europeans aren't, because they're supporting Russia by buying Russian oil. He can also take a swipe on China. I guess it just depends on what Donald Trump decides to do tomorrow morning, because he could go either way. But the important thing is not what anybody says from that podium. It's in the hallways of the UN, where they're all rushing to get their, selfie with Donald Trump.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think of the administration so warmly bringing in this serious new president, this unelected Ahmed al-Sharaa, who is a terrorist? I mean, this guy has spent his life as effectively as a terrorist, and now he's leading Syria. He's been welcomed here. He's going to be in New York. He's going to address the United Nations, which totally tracks. What do you make of that? And should the administration be stronger in condemning this man? They're obviously very warm toward him.
And here's why. When President Trump made the decision to talk to the Saudi and the various Gulf Arab countries, that with the countries in the Abraham Accords, but also Saudi Arabia, he looked at them and they said to him in the beginning of this administration, they said, hey, Mr. President, you took a bet on us and it's worked out really well. We were doing well with Israel. We have the Abraham Accords. We have peace and prosperity. What about Syria? And they said, look, trust the Syrian guy. Give the Syrian guy a chance. He's got a bad record and a bad rap sheet, but he could be like us. He could be someone you can do business with, that Israel could do business with, and somebody who will eventually be part of the solution in the Middle East. So this is, President Trump is taking the risk. He's said when he recognized him, I'm going to give Syria a chance for greatness again. We'll see if it works.
We'll see if it works. All right, KT, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Great to see you. Thank you.
All right. Are they getting back together? Next. Finally tonight, Charlie Kirk predicted that Elon and the president would get back together after that nasty fight that they had. And look at what we saw at the memorial for Charlie Kirk yesterday. A very nice moment to see them back together. Two favorites of MAGA right there. We don't like them fighting. We like them getting along, and they certainly got along pretty well yesterday. The president giving him a little pat on the side as he walked away. Didn't quite get to that, but a nice moment there. And we've got Finnerty coming up here next. Good prediction by Charlie, and I think Elon tweeted out that was for Charlie. He went over and made amends for Charlie.
Yeah, something Charlie wanted, and that was nice to see yesterday. Well done, Rob, in Arizona. Good to have you back.
Good to see you, Rob. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.